Welcome to the HerHealth series with Alor. I am Zaheen Rahman, your host for today on the topic of Can Counseling Help Us? Impact of Stress on Relationship and Marriage with our expert guest, Dr. Shaista Waqar. Culturally diverse communities, especially women, often rely on informal support systems such as families, elders, or religious leaders, rather than counseling to deal with relationship problems. Counseling carries an unspoken stigma, a fear of bringing shame or being judged by others or to the counselor. In a series of episodes of Our Health with Alor, we will try to unpack why counseling can be a useful tool to deal with relationship problem, be it with family, children, work colleague, or friends. You can start asking questions now on Facebook Live using the comment feature, or you can also email us your question now at alloenlightenedwoman@gmail.com. Our health expert will be happy to answer any question that you have. Before we start, I'd like to introduce our expert guest, Dr. Shaista Waqar. Dr. Waqar holds a PhD in psychology and diploma in counseling. Dr. Waqar has been working in mental health field for the last 22 years. Currently, she's working as a counselor at Relationship Australia and engaged in teaching at University of Canberra. She's focused on counseling with individuals, couples, families, especially with cult background. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us today. How are
My
you?
pleasure. I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me with you.
No problem. It's actually a pleasure, and I'm very excited what our discussion will unfold today and with your expert opinion. So,
Mhm.
Dr. Walker, tell me, what are the challenges women from diverse background face in their marriage relationship?
Okay, so Zain, to start with, usually, if especially if you're talking about the sort of first generation of immigrants coming here or second generation of immigrant living in Australia, we have some unique challenges for ourselves and also for our relationships, especially for these both first and second generations. We are raised with different cultural values, and if, for example, as I am first generation of immigrants, I have lived my most of my life in a totally different environment and culture. The gender roles that I've been raised, they were totally different from what I see around me. So people or immigrants or community called community, um, they face unique challenges in how do they become at peace with two different cultures, the one they are raised with and the one they are practically living in. And especially in relationship, this becomes more multi-layered because the support system that we have around, the living conditions, the family support or the community support that we have or we don't have around us, it plays sort of a unique role. So what I've seen in my practice, that what issues do generally called women bring in during counseling sessions in terms of their relationship, it's more about, you know this is not a situation I've lived earlier. I don't know how to navigate into that, and my spouse or my partner expects me, to fully integrate into this culture, to fully maybe or not to at all integrate in this culture, or he or she is totally different from me. If they have born and raised here and they have married to someone who is from the other culture, so it becomes quite a challenging task for both partners. So sometimes they emerge as communication issues where they are not being able to understand each other's perspective, and these are the issues that any couple can have, the communication issues or lack of understanding. But being from cult community, we are, and we have lots of statistics around it, that we are more isolated here, we don't have much support, and we have many additional barriers to to approach or to seek support around that. Okay,
Right.
so yeah, do you want me to elaborate a bit more about it,
Yeah, yeah.
especially?
Also, if you emphasize a bit, we live in a new world, right? After COVID-19, things has been
Yeah.
changed and changed in a
Mm.
greater way. So if you also can emphasize that this COVID-19, has it exerted this pressure, especially on women? And is that impacting more on that relationship? So if you can also emphasize on that.
Sure, sure. Uh, Throughout Australia, or I think it's global, that during the lockdown when everybody was living together 24/7 on each other's nerves,
Of
um,
course, yeah.
so it brought up lots of pressure, lots of stress, and generally in a culture from cult community where women are generally considered as the person in a relationship whose responsibility is to maintain the relationship. So it's a sort of dual responsibility for that woman to sort of to manage the stress for herself when she is overwhelmed with the presence of children, with the presence of husband or spouse all the time in the house, supporting them for their homeschooling or work from home, and if she's working, work from for herself too. So it was lots of stress for her. And between and in that situation, if there are added financial stresses, many were stuck in this in this lockdown, and you know that Australia has been quite strict, so they were not being able to visit their families back home. So there were lots of pressure, and definitely whatever the individual pressure, um, you know um, they translate and they do impact our relationship. And when, especially when women are considered as the main person to maintain the relationship, so we take the responsibility that I have to fix everything for my husband, for my children, for myself. So it's the additional thing. And at that time, high self-care, pinpointing what are the stresses are, what can we do about it, and what can we can't do it, because it's our tendency or impulse to fix everything for ourselves and for others, and mostly for others, for our family. So trying to reflect that what can I do and what I can't do. I cannot change the lockdown at that time
No, yes, yes, of
situation.
course.
But what I can do is maybe having some quiet moment for the family, or involving my family members to maintain a routine. So figuring it out that what works for every family.
Yep, yep, of course. And I can totally relate with it. I was pregnant during that time. Even
Ah,
though I was pampered by everyone in the house, I still felt that pressure. And
yeah.
we both, me and my husband, both had to work extra to work that really on that relationship.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I can totally relate. Now,
Mm.
what can we do to reduce the
Mhm.
stress on our relationship? I mean, how do we know that this is the time to get professional help through counseling? I mean, this is the time that it has gone past self-care. We will talk
Mm.
after dinner. So can you give us a bit of an experience, a bit of an
Sure.
idea? Yep.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Generally, counseling people do come to counseling when, especially if they're coming from Carl background, because for them, for us, it's a sort of, and not a very sort of suitable option we look for. It's not a something that we are raised with, so we're not sure about how it will work for us. So generally, we or cult community turn to counseling when they have worked out everything for themselves, when they have tried out every solution that they can think of. Some couples, they do come up after utilizing their family resources or friends, some involving some friends. But if they're not being able to resolve issues or work on relationship, then they think the last strategy usually is to come for counseling or marital counseling. So I would say, in my experience, there are people who come to save their relationship or to save their marriage while
Okay.
it's too late, because once it's too late, it's too late. So,
Yeah.
and sometimes people come, they are in a reasonably good relationship, but they want to enhance the depth of that relationship. So that's a really good way of seeing that it's as we care about our physical health, that we are okay, I don't have any disease, for example, but I just want to be more fit, be more healthy.
Of course.
So that's
Yeah.
the same thing, that my relationship, let's assume that couple can think that our relationship is doing well, but we have some 2 to 3 maybe issues that we can work around with the help of a professional, and we can improve the depth of our relationship, and we can improve our relationship with each other. So that can be one of the things that people can think of. And otherwise, usually, as you said in earlier in this session, Zain, that usually we turn to our elderly, our support system, and here when we don't have that support, the community support, or that family, so we need someone. And I have some young couples, and they say that we don't have our family with us, so we don't know where to turn to. So there is we can't confide, we don't know who, I mean, if we are talking to some community member, how it will travel. So coming to counselor is definitely provides you a complete, safe, non-judgmental and confidential space to talk what you are going through. Does that answer your question, Zaheen?
Yes, yes, of course. And especially when you say that it is not every time, it is not all about saving the marriage or just having a good relationship. We can go and seek counselor to enhance the relationship, enhance the marriage, see the depth of it. So that's a really good point. um, Dr. Walker, being a woman from a different culture, when I think myself, I'm a bit hesitant to seek
Mm-hmm.
professional counseling. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
just I'm very traditional minded, or maybe it's just a stigma. So what would be your advice um, towards me or people who from have a similar mentality like me, which will give me that confident that yes, this is the time I need to go and seek professional help in case I need it.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I totally get your point, Zine, and I totally understand that. Yeah, it's a stigma. It's people have this sort of belief that things will travel out, or people will judge me. My counselor will judge me, and what if I bump into her into some community gathering? So these are the real fears, real anxieties. I totally understand that. So for that, I think one thing that I can assure, and I think coming to this podcast is one of the main objective was to create an awareness to tell the people that how this works, how this process works. And I'm happy to have any questions about specific barriers, but generally speaking, it is to sort of ensuring that it's a part of our training as a counselor, that everything that we talk about in sessions is completely confidential. And we mentioned to that our clients that except if there is any risk of harm, that's the only condition, then in that situation we need to breach the sort of this confidentiality. Except to this condition, there are no other conditions. And if I'm working with a couple, and I usually start when I start with a couple, I usually have individual sessions with each partner separately initially, just to get the sense of the relationship from both sides. And I tell them that whatever I'm discussing or you are sharing with me, I'm not going to share this across the session to your wife or to your husband or to your partner. That's, if you want to share it, you need to do this. I won't do it. What I'm is doing, I'm not a messenger, I'm not a fixer. I'm here as a facilitator, as a professional, to support you to work through your issues, right? So this, I think, assurance of confidentiality, the safe space, the non-judgmental space. I myself, as a women from CALD community, and I know that how much we are concerned about talking about that. Issue that what if I bump into my counselor in a gathering, in a community gathering, because we are a very small community gathering here.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
that's the one of the ethical thing that I have faced. And what I've done is that, and after that, I decided to talk about it with my clients. At how would you like to, that situation look like for you? That if I bump into you into some gathering, so first is, if you acknowledge me, then I'll acknowledge you. I'm not
Okay.
going to acknowledge you if you are not, if you do are not making any eye contact, because I don't want to to make this a sort of situation for you. And obviously my professional life is totally separate from my personal life. So you are trusting, and I'm a professional here. I'm registered here with the the regulatory authority that mandates me to follow some ethical points, and which is the confidentiality and the non-judgmental and safety for your space. So that helps, that calms them down, that okay, this is a safe space where I can talk I'm going to talk about, I want to talk about, and this is not going to travel anywhere. Secondly, obviously, always see that what are the professional standards the counselor or therapist is following, because that's the quality check that they are going through. They, I mean, yeah, the ethical guidelines, or the, if they're affiliated with regulatory body or not, plus what are the specific, if you want to go more into the detail, what specific therapy they follow. And and clients have a right to ask counselor that are they registered with some authority, or what specific technique they follow, or with what age group do they usually work. For example, I work with adults, with couples, with families, and in some situations with adolescents too, right? But I don't work with young children, so I'm very clear that I can't work in that situation. I've worked, but I've, over the time, I've developed that, okay, this is maybe my preferred areas are other. So I'm very open to talk about that, what I can work and what I can't work. And more to that, I think talking about this, that when you talk about your issues with a professional, it doesn't bring any shame or disrespect to your family. As if you have any physical condition, you can definitely, you do go to physical, to GP, your general practitioner,
Yes.
and tell all about the details of your physical injury. So that's the same thing, that you're going to see your mental health professional to talk about your mental health concerns. So I think as we have a sort of annual physical, sort of checkup thing, I
Yep.
think it's
Yes.
very important to consider as a annual mental health checkup for something. And it doesn't have to be very big. If you have lost some loved one, that's a way to talk about it. And when we do not talk about these issues, it impacts our relationship.
Yes, of
And if
course.
I'm getting too much distracted, please stop me. I have a
No,
high
no,
tendency
these
to
are
do
very useful. Listening to you, sometimes, there are a lot of different scenarios. Sometimes we don't know these. And when you're saying these, it's kind of reassuring. And to know this, it's a good feeling. Plus, sometimes some people know that this is what you have to do, but getting this told by an expert does
that.
make a sense. So, no, thank you very much for sharing this. Dr. Walker, I would like to know that as a woman, we have all these expectations and roles. Frankly, if I want to go to a counseling, it will be another thing in my already booked out schedule. So, can
Mhm.
you give me an idea that how much time um, I need to invest, or someone needs to invest to go through such
Mhm.
counseling? For example, how many sessions to get a good result or some changes, positive changes, and for how long?
Mm. Okay, so I think, Zaheen, it's a matter of priority. I know that we all are very busy, but as we have sort of our schedules for our physical health checkups. So that's the same thing. It's all about how much sort of you think that it's important to talk about, or how much it is impacting you and your family or your relationship. Um, Sometimes if it's not too big, you can just bear with it, and we are resilient too. And if the relationship is going well, but getting into trouble on and off, okay, you can, if you can manage that without impacting you greatly, that's fine. You can live with it. But if it starts impacting that, some, yeah, people, couples come to me and they say that, we know what our issues are. When we start talking about with each other, we end up in arguments and nothing goes away. We are
Okay.
stuck in a cycle. We have fight, and typically from cult community, we have a fight. Uh, we just don't talk for a day or for a few hours, and then we
Yes.
get back,
Yep.
and
Yep.
we sort of um, we assume, or we sort of we act that nothing happened,
Of
right? And
course.
we are back together,
Yep.
and it goes on. But the issue is not resolved here. You're
No.
just trying to sweep dust under your carpet, but it's not resolving, and it will come up again. So unless you talk about it, unless you have a open communication about it, and that takes a bit of time, that takes specific skills that we are not sort of trained in. So a professional, a therapist or counselor can help you to work on those skills. And let me tell you that this relationship or marital counseling or premarital counseling, now, I'm amazed by our young people. I have worked with few young couples who have come for premarital counseling, and I really love that how, thoughtful they are, that before getting into the relationship, they want to work out the main, sort of the possibilities of issues. So where I was, I lost my
No, no,
train
that's
of
fine.
thought.
So, yeah, so you were saying that. So what are you trying to say, that it varies couples to couples,
Yes,
that
it
how long,
varies.
how quickly they unfold, and how quickly um,
Yes.
they can talk it through. So it, it,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
varies.
It varies. It varies, and sometimes, yeah. Now I remember what I was going to say. That relationship is counseling is not always work as a couple. Sometimes when I feel that, okay, before coming to together as a couple, I think you both need a couple of individual sessions with me, because I
Okay.
can sense that there is something that you need to work on, this individual issue that is impacting your relationship. So let's work on this individual issue, then we can come together as a couple. So if I sense that, for example, if one of the partner has some traumatic experience, right, whatever it could be, and obviously that will impact the relationship.
Yes,
So
yes.
before, in that sort of communication issues, sometimes they are just the tip of the iceberg. They are expressed as a communication issues, but they are much deeper issues around that. So talking about that, for example, if someone has a traumatic experience and it is impacting their relationship, so what I'll do is I'll try to work on the trauma side by side for a couple of sessions, just to make them in a situations where they can come together as a couple. They are in a situation to hear what their partner is telling them, because once we are so much consumed by our individual issues, we are not ready, or we actually can't listen what the partner is saying or how the relationship is being impacted. So it varies with the issues, that if we are directly going into the couple sessions, or it will take some individual work to get into that couple situations, right? So there are no as standard. I'm unable to give you some sort of number of sessions, but generally I think, in my experience, 6 to 8 sessions are reasonable good number. It's a good number. And sometimes what I say is that, for example, we had 3 sessions, and I'll ask them, okay, so we have talked about some skills, we have talked about some interventions. So let's, what I would like you to you know practice those skills and interventions for maybe a couple of months and see how they work, and we can meet together after a couple of months. So it doesn't have to be in a same row. I don't do that, because mostly I work with some skills too for both of the partners, for some communication or conflict management or emotional regulation sort of stuff. And because these skills need time and practice, so
Of
I
course.
want them to practice in their family or in their relationship, and then see how it is impacting their relationship, so they can see what progress they are making, and they can see how it is impacting their relationship. And if they are seeing positive results, it is very encouraging for them, and we can definitely start on some other issue if they are having some other issue, right? And in terms of sessions that you mentioned, it is generally 6 to 8 sessions, as I said, and each session is of 50 to 60 minutes generally. And yeah, and it can be, there can be some individual session as well as couple sessions.
Okay, so
Yeah,
basically they are customized,
they
and
are.
yeah, it
Yeah,
varies couple to
yeah.
couple. That's good to know. Um,
Mm.
Dr. Walker, what happens when one of the partner is not ready for a relationship or couple counseling?
Yeah, that's a good point actually, Zaheen. And it happens many times. It happens many times that one partner is really interested to go for counseling while the other is not. So you cannot push anyone for counseling,
Of
but
course.
definitely the person who is interested, that person can definitely go into counseling to work on the relationship, because there are things that he or she can improve on for the relationship.
Yeah, yeah.
In counseling, I generally talk more about the personal responsibility of the person coming to me. If person A is coming, I would, in the first session, I'll ask, okay, what is the minimum thing, or what's the one thing that you could do to improve your relationship? I'll talk about only about you. I cannot control what the other person does, but I can, I'm working with you. We can only work with what you can do. So there are always things that one can do to improve the relationship. So, and if this is a situation that the partner is not sort of ready to come, so don't get disheartened. There are some ways that you can work on yourself. Maybe if the relationship is not going very well, but you can do something to sustain with that relationship, or how to get some strength for yourself, or how to manage your stress. So there are always some individual interventions that can be helpful for the client, even if the spouse is not ready.
Okay, okay, that's really good to know. Well,
Mhm.
Dr. Walker, thank you very much for sharing your view on counseling based on your experience dealing with the woman from diverse background. Some of the tip that you said was really useful, and especially the pre-marriage counseling sessions. I think it's I didn't know that it exists. I have seen that in movies and all that, but I didn't know that in real life it exists. And this is a great thing. I mean, we are upgrading in so many different aspects in life. So why not focusing on something that is one of the most important relationship in the life? So yeah, thank you very much for sharing this. Now we are ready to take some questions from our audience today,
Sure.
so which we gathered from our Facebook live comment or email. So the first
Uh-huh.
question we have is from Ifi Ishamomin. So Dr. Walker, kindly would you elaborate the reason for rise in conflict in as long as 20 years of marital life? These conflicts were not there before, but after COVID, I have observed many couples with long marital ties having more conflicts.
Okay, so this question actually is asking two things. First is the impact of COVID. So, what I think we briefly touched that COVID brought lots of additional stresses to families and relationships. Even those relationships, those who were working well, they started having issues because of the long term stress, because of there were less individual spaces for partners, because yeah, that's an important thing. We can talk about it later, but that's important thing that usually cult community, or a collectivist culture, they are raised with this sort of belief that if one is in relationship, everything needs to be done together. So there's not much concept of a healthy individual space. And COVID hit that if both are together 24/7, obviously there would be increased fights. The stressor from the financial issues, the stressor for not being able to go out, no physical activity or less physical activity, being stuck at home, not being able to visit families, overseas. Those were all additional stresses that impacted the sort of quality of relationship. The first sort of part of the question is really interested, and I've seen it's for so many times now that yeah, the reasons for conflicts after 20 years of married life. Yes, this is actually very common. What usually happens, especially in cult community, talking about that for first 20 years of life, usually we most of the time we are wearing the parent cap. We are
Yeah.
mothers or fathers
Yes,
for early 15 to 20 years.
of
Okay, so our kids are the main focus, they are the main projects of our lives. And when they start getting independent, in let's say first 20 years of our married life, we have no project together. We
yeah.
have no ways to connect with each other. We have lost that connection. So now we are sort of knowing each other in different space. Generally, after in first 15, 20 years of life, married life, when kids are small, the whole life revolves around kids. And parents usually have guilt to having some time for themselves as a couple or as an individual. So we survive that for 15, 20 years, but once it's done, kids are sort of a bit better independent. Then we, there is no much sort of common shared interest. So we need to come up with some more ways to connect with each other. And I've seen it so many times that, people think that they have perfect married life of 20 or 25 years, and now they're separating, or now they're having issues. Yes,
Yeah.
it does make sense to me, because they were having a shared project in 15, 20 years of life. Now they don't have. So unless they come up with some shared thing that they are equally committed to, or other ways of connecting with each other, they will have some, lost connection.
Right. Okay. Now that makes sense. Yeah. Thank you very much. Um, we have another question that we got earlier. Um,
Mhm.
is couple counseling recommended for a woman who is experiencing abuse in her relationship?
Okay, so generally, what I practice is that if a relationship is abusive, I won't go for couple counseling, because the safety of the client is the first thing that I need to ensure, right? So I will indefinitely, and one of the reason for having individual sessions before going to couple session is to make safety check if both partners feel safe in the same space or not, right? So um, we can work with couple as an individual sessions. Okay, so supporting them if they find that the relationship is abusive, but not as a couple, unless they both have worked through few things and feel safe to come together, because it's the counselor's responsibility to sense if it's the safe space or not. And especially on Zoom or those media, I don't work with couples with having this sort of background. And again, there could be other situations. For example, there could be a relationship where one is having severe mental health conditions,
Okay. Yeah.
where one can be having some alcohol or drug addiction. So in those cases where there is a strong individual issue, we don't bring both partners together unless we work through that, because that's a very strong individual issue there. Obviously we need to ensure that the other person keeps safe. So there are situations where couple counseling is not recommended. So domestic violence is one of that situation.
Okay. Okay. That's good
Yeah.
to know. So we have got another interesting question from Maliha Mahbub. What kind of training do the counselor go through for these issues? The reason I'm asking this that each scenario is different and there is no right or wrong. So how would the counselor assist to act or react in a unique situation?
Okay, so that's interesting question. And there are different modalities that we work with. There are some basic strategies that work with every condition or with every situations. Definitely that provides a strong base for every counselor. But after that, for example, I'm trained in sort of, family systemic therapy. So that takes considers individual and couples with a sort of, the multiple layers of social settings or community settings, starting with immediate family to extended family to groups to culture to society or global. So that states that everything impacts each other: the family, the interplay between the family, the culture, and the sort of, the significant sort of events like migration, like death of someone. They all impact the whole entity of the family. So I am, and most of the cult community, they are sort of they come from collectivist culture, so they do have strong family ties, or their sort of extended family impact them a lot. So I find that that's really, fits well with the cult community. So, and there are many other techniques. I use many other techniques, including acceptance and commitment therapy, including sort of Gottman's principles of relationship. So clients have all the rights to ask that what counselors they are practicing and what they have been trained in. And if you want to know more, you can just Google that what type of therapy is like. This is something that sits well with me or not. So you have all right. And I think before going to counselor, you should Google and explore the resources, that is it going to be a good fit or not. And
Okay.
interestingly, it's finding the right counselor is like, finding a the right shoes. Very bad
Right.
example.
That's what I had in my mind as before you finish it. Yes, right pair of shoes.
It's a very bad example, but it might look very pretty, but does it fit you?
Yes. Is it comfortable? Yes, of
Is it
course.
comfortable? Do you feel, well fit with each other? So yeah, yeah, that's
Plus, a right size shoe and a well fitted shoe can give you a lot of confidence. It gives that,
yes.
yeah, I get a lot of confidence. So that was very good example. Thank you very much. Now, Dr. Walker, can you give us some example of shared common project for long term couples can take
Mm.
from your experience?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So actually, that's the homework that I give to my couples. That come, go, brainstorm, and think that what you can do together now. It could be renovating your house, maybe. It could be starting a hobby together, like gardening, like walk, maybe finding a new hobby for yourselves. Zahin, especially with cult community, and you are from Kal community, I know that our life circumstances are totally different.
Yes.
And when I ask, especially clients from Kal community, that what is your hobby, they say we don't have any hobby. I don't get time. I'm just consumed with my work, with my family, and that's it. So these are all responsibilities. You are sharing responsibilities, but what are you sharing? The fun moments. The fun moments could look like just maybe watching a movie together, maybe learning something together. That could be something that you could do together once you're done with the big project of children. So maybe connecting with each other through some hobby, starting some hobby like gardening, maybe cooking meals together. It is the couple's task to come up with some ideas.
Okay.
Some people come up with traveling plans, all good. So they plan it, they with every bits and details. So it gives them a confidence that there are other ways to connect with each other. So they have to come up because that's their relationship. I just facilitate how to work around it. But
Okay.
once they come up with some ideas, they own those ideas and they gather that confidence that we can think of some other things to connect with each other. So that helps their relationship a lot.
Right. Okay. What are the, it's just my curious mind that wanted to know, what are the most interesting common project you came across? That they want
Ah, that's an interesting. Yeah, yeah. I remember there was a young couple actually, and they were finding a young couple with young children, and they were not being able to find any time with each other, right?
to. Okay.
And we were discussing, okay, what could be the some connecting hobbies or something, because they can't go out at night because they have young kids sleeping and all that stuff. So they decided that they will start, playing some board games with each other, right?
Okay.
So and when the in the next session I asked, okay, how did that go, and are you going to sort of keeping that up? They said we became so competitive in in those board games that
Okay.
it became difficult to, we were so much invested in those that we enjoyed a lot, but we were so much invested in that it starts giving us a fight sort of, occasion. So then we stopped that. So it was intelligent of them to pick something that they could enjoy, but sense, okay, this is getting too much now. We need to stop it. So it
Oh,
was sort of, interesting for me that, yeah, the simple small activity could lead to some other thing too. So you
yeah.
need to be intelligent around that too.
That's very innovative. Innovative. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Walker, for your time today. It's great to foster a network for women who can support each other and get professional help too. And in
Mm,
ALO, we are trying to do that with the expert help of professionals like you. Would you like to tell anything before we finish this podcast today?
Yeah, sure. My, sort of objective of joining this podcast was to create awareness around this, that these are the support available. And I mentioned to you that I work, and you shared that I work in Relationships Australia part time, and I do see mainstream clients, and Australia is so multicultural, so clients from every culture, including all those South Asian cultures too. But I could see that there are barriers, there are language barriers at some point. There are, clients come up with this stuff, that how would a sort of white counselor can understand my issues when they have not been through issues. But let me tell you that there is support available. Generally, counselors are trained to work cross culture. And during my work experience in Relationship Australia, when I sensed that, I started my private practice with this sort of intention that our community needs this support. And 99% of my private practice includes clients from cult community, including from adolescent to individual, to couples, to families. Even sometimes it is between an elderly mother and a sort of adult women, the mother daughter duo. I've worked with those. I've worked with siblings having sort of issues with each other. So it's all, I mean, the same thing can be applied in any relationship. So please do not shy away from seeking support because of those stigmas. There is support available, and I know that this is and one more thing, that I find it's more comforting for my clients, that most of my private practice is through Zoom. So you don't have to go anywhere. You don't need any referral to see me. So no mental health plan, nothing. There are the wait times, they are not bad. So reach out for support. Zoom provides you flexibility with traveling, with that sort of stigma that I'm going to some organization, of some counseling organization. If someone sees me, what that person will think. So you can access these services from the comfort of your house. Even on weekends, I do have my appointments on weekends too, for some specific cases, if I feel that they really need support. And sometimes when both of the partners, they are working throughout week, they're unable to make time. Okay, so support is available. Please, and I know that it takes courage, especially when you feel that you will be judged. You won't be judged. We have all, we are all humans. We And these experiences are the most universal experiences, the most unique, but the most universal experiences. So do reach out, take your time, and you think that you or your relationship needs bits of tweak here and there, don't shy out.
Okay.
The And again, one last thing, that counseling is not for any crisis management.
Okay.
There are other specific crisis services available. Do reach out to them if you have any crisis. But for enhancing your relationship, for working through your relationship, or for your own self, please reach out. Support is there. Thank you very much for having me. It's been really a pleasure. And I think it's a great platform to reach out and to make our cult community that, there is support available.
Thank you very much, Dr. Walker. And thank you to our ALO listeners for staying with us with your questions and support. Please spread the word to your friends, family, and colleagues. Like our Facebook page and ask a woman to join our live sessions. Stay tuned to join us live in our next episode. Until next time, this is Zahin Rahman signing off from ALO team. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.